My name is Sarah Chen, and I've been working in corporate finance for 15 years. I've seen every kind of office politics you can imagine, but what happened with our lottery pool last month still amazes me. Sometimes the most unassuming people in the office turn out to be the most dangerous when crossed. It started innocently enough. Marcus Webb, our accounts payable supervisor, had been running the office lottery pool for 3 years. Every Friday, he'd walk around with his little clipboard, collecting $5 from anyone who wanted in. 23 people participated regularly, including me. Marcus seemed like the perfect person to manage it, methodical, trustworthy, always wore those cheap ties that screamed, responsible middle management. I should mention that I knew Marcus better than most people realized. We'd both started at Henderson Financial on the same day back in 2009. I'd watched him claw his way up to supervisor, while I'd taken a more strategic path through different departments. What Marcus didn't know was that my previous role in HR had given me access to a lot of information that I kept filed away in my memory. The lottery pool had never won more than $50 before. We'd joke about it during coffee breaks, fantasizing about what we'd do with millions. Marcus would always say he'd buy a yacht, which was funny because the guy got seasick on ferry rides. But last Friday, something extraordinary happened. Marcus came in Monday morning with an expression I'd never seen before, somewhere between terror and greed. He called an impromptu meeting in conference room B at 10 a.m. I noticed his hands were shaking slightly as he shuffled his papers. That's when I knew something was very, very wrong. "Listen up everyone," Marcus announced, his voice higher than usual. "About Friday's lottery drawing, well, we didn't win anything significant. Just the usual $2 prize. Sorry folks, better luck next week." But I'd already checked the lottery website Sunday night out of habit. Our numbers, the same ones we'd been playing for months, had matched 5 out of 6. The prize was $1.2 million. I said nothing, just nodded along with everyone else's disappointed groans. Over the next few days, I watched Marcus carefully. He was acting strange, jumpy, avoiding eye contact, taking longer lunch breaks. On Wednesday, I saw him at the bank during my own lunch hour. He was at the customer service desk, and I caught a glimpse of him signing some paperwork with very official-looking letterhead. By Thursday, Marcus's behavior had become impossible to ignore. He'd started talking about a family inheritance that would let him take a nice vacation soon. He mentioned casually that his aunt in Florida had left him some money. But I knew Marcus's family situation. His only aunt lived in Ohio and was very much alive. I'd processed his emergency contact forms myself years ago. I decided it was time to do some digging. My old friend Janet still worked in HR, and my college roommate Kim had become a compliance officer at the State Lottery Commission after law school. Sometimes it pays to maintain your network. Friday afternoon, I made 2 phone calls. Janet confirmed that Marcus hadn't reported any inheritance or gift income to HR as required by company policy for amounts over $10,000. Kim was more interesting. She told me that someone matching Marcus's description had attempted to claim a $1.2 million prize on Monday, but there was a problem with the process that required additional documentation. That's when I realized what Marcus was trying to do. He was going to steal our lottery winnings and disappear. The man who'd collected $5 from 23 people every week for 3 years was planning to rob us all. I felt a cold anger settle in my chest, the kind that sharpens your thinking rather than clouds it. I spent the weekend planning. Marcus had made several critical mistakes, but his biggest was not understanding who he was dealing with. See, before I moved to finance, I'd spent 2 years in the legal department working on compliance issues. I knew every policy manual at Henderson Financial by heart, including some very interesting clauses about employee conduct and fiduciary responsibility. Monday morning, I arrived early and sent 3 carefully crafted emails. The first went to Janet in HR, formally reporting a suspected violation of the Employee Ethics Code regarding gambling and potential fraud. The second went to our CFO, David Harrison, whom I'd worked with closely during the merger 3 years ago. David trusted my judgment completely. The third email was the most important. It went to Marcus himself, with ACC to the entire office distribution list. The subject line read, "Lottery pool results, congratulations everyone." In the email, I congratulated everyone on our 5-number match and attached a screenshot of the lottery website showing our winning numbers and the $1.2 million prize. I mentioned that I'd noticed some confusion about the prize amount and wanted to clarify for everyone that we had indeed won big. I suggested we all meet in conference room B at 2 p.m. to discuss the next steps for claiming our prize. I sent the email at exactly 9:15 a.m., right as Marcus was walking in with his coffee. I watched from across the open floor plan as he checked his phone and saw the email. His face went completely white, then red, then white again. His coffee mug slipped from his hands and shattered on the floor. Within minutes, the entire office was buzzing. People were congratulating each other, making excited phone calls, and asking Marcus when they could expect their share of the money. Marcus kept stammering that there must be some mistake, that he'd already checked, and they hadn't won anything significant. But the evidence was right there in my email, and everyone could verify it themselves on the lottery website. Marcus was trapped, and he knew it. At 2 p.m., 23 people crowded into conference room B. Marcus sat at the head of the table looking like he might vomit. David Harrison had decided to join us, along with Janet from HR and surprisingly, 2 men in suits I didn't recognize. Before we discussed the lottery winnings, David announced, "I think we need to address some concerns that have been brought to my attention regarding the handling of these funds." Marcus's face had gone beyond pale. He was practically gray. One of the men in suits introduced himself as Detective Reynolds from the Financial Crimes Unit. The other was a representative from the State Lottery Commission. The lottery representative explained that someone had attempted to claim our prize using falsified documentation, claiming to be the sole winner rather than representing a group. Security footage from the lottery office clearly showed Marcus Webb making this false claim. Detective Reynolds informed Marcus that he was being investigated for attempted theft by deception, a felony charge carrying up to 5 years in prison. The fact that he'd tried to defraud 23 people simultaneously made it grand theft. I watched Marcus's face as the reality sank in. His little scheme to steal our money hadn't just failed, it had created a paper trail that would likely send him to prison. His hands were visibly shaking as Detective Reynolds asked him to step outside for questioning. David turned to the rest of us and explained that the company's legal team would help facilitate the proper claiming of our prize. Each person's share would be approximately $52,000 after taxes, a life-changing amount for most of us, but not quite yacht money. As everyone else celebrated and made plans, I quietly packed up my notes. Marcus was being escorted toward the elevator, his head down and shoulders slumped. Just before the doors closed, he looked back at me. In that moment, he finally understood exactly who had orchestrated his downfall. I gave him the slightest nod, not gloating, just acknowledging that his betrayal had consequences. The elevator doors slid shut and Marcus Webb disappeared from our office forever. I returned to my desk and went back to work, knowing that sometimes the most powerful revenge is simply ensuring that justice gets served.